Welcome to Essential Sales Skills for CEOs. I'm super excited about this group today. Amazing founders and CEOs in the session. We're going to go through the webinar and talk about all the ways that you need to think about sales and the basic sales skills that you have to have if you're a CEO and a founder and somebody who's running a business. And then also how you need to think about all the people that in your day-to-day job that you're selling to and what you're selling them in the first place. So we're going to really go deep in sales, focused on the CEO level. First, let me share a little bit of background. So I've been a founder and CEO my entire life since I dropped out of high school when I was 17, 18. So I'm completely, unqualified for any kind of job. I'm totally unemployable, but I've had at least the title of CEO for a very long time, and I've been selling to CEOs for a very long time. The latest business that's probably most relevant to you guys is a company that we started called Elastic Sales. With Elastic Sales, we helped over 200 venture-backed startups in Silicon Valley scale their sales efforts. So we coached CEOs and founders in sales. We helped them develop a sales process. We helped them go out and sell to other businesses, mainly in the B2B space. And a majority of those sales were actually to core decision makers, so CXO levels, many, many times to the CEO level. And we as Elastic Sales, we always sold to the CEO, the final decision maker, in basically utilizing Elastic sales force to outsource sales and to get sales consulting and to scale their sales efforts. So, we've worked with many, many companies in developing their sales process and scaling that. And in the process, we built a tool. At first, we called it our internal secret sauce called Closeio, that our salespeople and our sales teams used in order to scale all these sales campaigns and outcompete their competitors. And after a year of holding that piece of software close to our chest and calling it our secret sauce and our secret unfair competitive advantage, finally we gave in to all the demands from the outside market, and we released Closeio, and it's been a tremendous success. Thousands and thousands of companies and salespeople around the world are actually closing more deals and making more sales using our piece of software. So sales is really near and dear to our heart. It's in our DNA. It's the core thing that drives us and drives our business. And we're talking to CEOs and founders every single week, helping them with their sales strategies, helping them scale their sales forces and overcome their sales challenges. All right, so there's going to be two things that we're going to focus on in today's session. Number one, we're going to go through the basics of sales through the lenses of a CEO, and then we're going to go through all the different audiences that a CEO has to sell to in the day-to-day work that you're doing, and try to understand why they're buying, what they're buying, and how to be successfully selling to these different groups. All right, let's get right to it. So let's start off with Pitchology 101, right? The basics of pitching, the basics of sales. First of all, you need to understand that sales is nothing else than results-driven communication. It's all about communicating with other people. It doesn't matter if it's in the context of a corporation or an individual buyer. You're always communicating with other human beings, and the goal of the communication is to help them make a decision, to drive a transaction, to drive a result. Yes or no, but you are in the results-driven communication business. And when you're managing teams as well as when you're selling yourself, you need to understand and separate communication for communication's sake versus communication for results' sake, right? So when you're in sales mode, and as CEO, you should always be in sales mode. Doesn't matter if you talk to your team to build something, if you talk to the press, if you talk to co-founders, employees, investors, you're always in sales mode, and talking is not selling. You really need to focus on speaking in a way and communicating in a way that's actually going to drive a result, and that has a result at the end of it as the end goal and the core driver of it, versus just communicating for the sake of hearing yourself speak, right? And that's where sales is the closest to sports in a way, and why a lot of people that are great at sales are actually people that are very competitive and might have had a background in history in sports, because in sales, you have a scoreboard, right? It's not just like, oh, I communicated great today and I think I made some really amazing points. Nobody gives a shit. Like, I played really well today, but I didn't score anything. Nobody gives a shit, right? The only thing that matters is how many results did you drive? How many, scores did you made if you were on the court, if you played basketball, whatever the competitive sport is. And in sales, how many deals did you close? Nothing else matters. And the other thing about that is, it doesn't matter what the results were that you drove yesterday, right? You could be the best of the best of all times. You could have been like Michael Jordan at his prime. When he went on the court for a new game, the score was 0-0. Nobody said, well, this is Michael Jordan. He starts off with, 30 points ahead because he's already worked his ass off for the last couple of years and he's the best of all time. Nobody gives a shit. The score always starts at 0. It doesn't matter what your results were last week. You have to perform again. You have to constantly drive results, and that's what it's all about. And as a CEO, you should only communicate to actually drive a result. No other communication should be part of your day-to-day life and the day-to-day way you do things and communicate things. Sales is all about, because sales is a result-driven activity, you're never going to always just get wins. Not every throw is actually going to score. So you're more likely going to get more no's than yeses. You're going to have more failures than successes. If you're out there to actually drive a result and get to a yes or no, a transaction, one way or another, you're going to have to live with pain and rejection and failure. So you got to get used to that. And in sales, it's all about figuring out and training your own tolerance for pain and training your own tolerance for rejection, right? Most people design their lives around rejection. They design their lives around creating safe spaces where they're going to have to face as little rejection as humanly possible. When you're a CEO and you're selling, you need to get over yourself, which a lot of CEOs have this problem that because they have this title, quote unquote, for whatever the fuck that's worth, because they have that title and the title is seen as something that's prestigious, they only want to go out and sell when they know they're going to succeed. They don't want to fail in front of their team and staff. They don't want to look stupid. So they always kind of pick and choose what deals and what interactions they should get involved with, only when they feel really, really, really confident that they can step in as the CEO and fucking drive the win and make this a big success and close the deal or whatever it is. You have to get over yourself. If you're only winning as CEO when you're interacting in sales conversations, you're not selling enough. If you're only winning, you're not taking enough risks. You need to fail. You need to show your entire team, organization, the public that it's okay to fail. It's okay to lose when you're playing to win. It's fine. As long as the scoreboard all in all has you ahead, you're fine. It doesn't matter how many times you took a swing or took a throw and didn't hit didn't hit the score, right? Or the basket. So it's all about actually figure out a way to tolerate and manage your emotional household and be okay with rejection. If you're not getting no's, if you're not getting rejected as CEO, you're not selling enough, you're not taking enough risk in sales. So you need to be out there and figure out a way to manage your own emotional household and manage the way that rejection will be part of your daily life, hopefully. Right now, a lot of people and a lot of especially inexperienced CEOs, there's two camps. Inexperienced CEOs when it comes to sales, people that maybe are very technical or don't have like a long background in sales. And also the other camp, people that love themselves talking, like super outgoing, super gregarious kind of personalities that think talking equates to selling. These two groups of CEOs think that selling is all about hearing yourself speak. Selling is all about talking. Selling is all about stealing the show and walking into a room and like babbling on forever. And whoever has the most percentage of talk time in a conversation won. Nothing could be further from the truth, right? In sales, the person who asks leads the conversation. Not in sales, in life. The person who asks the questions is leading the conversation, is focusing and directing and shepherding the conversation in the direction you want to. You can only sell if you have understanding. You can only have understanding if you ask questions and you actively listen. Sales is all about first qualifying the prospect, qualifying the opportunity before you actually go out there to sell. Don't throw darts in the dark. Too many people do that. You come into a conversation, you think, oh, this could be a potential buyer for a product. So let me go on and tell that person everything there is to know about our business. And I'm going to throw as many darts in the dark, darts representing value propositions, features, functionalities, fun facts. I'm going to keep on saying, well, our product does this and it does that, and we have this and we have that. And I'm going to just throw as many things as possible and something will surely hit, right? That's kind of the most unelegant, brute force, stupid way of selling. And what's going to happen as a result is the person will stop listening to you because you're like this overbearing person that is so self-involved and only in it for yourself. And it's impossible to listen to somebody and actually remember the 25th value proposition of that product. Like nobody is capable of doing that. And we've all been in these kind of very counterproductive conversations. You can't just come into a conversation and sell. You come into a conversation to first get to learn and get to understand who it is that you're conversing with, who it is you're communicating with, what are their needs, what are their use cases, what are their goals and challenges and obstacles, who is this person that I'm selling to, and what do they need? And once you actually get to understanding, not just surface level understanding, but deep, real understanding of somebody's situation, then and only then do you have the permission to sell, and then and only then do you have the ammunition to sell, because you have real targets. You know, oh, this person really, really cares about X, Y, and Z, and I know why they care about it, and I know the context and environment in which they care about this. I really have deep understanding. So when I now start speaking to pitch them on our product, both do I have the authenticity that I believe our product really solves that problem, but I also have clarity on what I should focus on. Instead of telling them everything our product can do, I'm going to tell them what our product can do that's going to help them and that I know is a priority for them. So you always want to qualify first before you actually start selling anything. You always want to ask questions before you start assuming you know who they are and what they need and start pitching them on those. And when you ask questions, make sure that you don't just ask them, so while they're talking, so it gives you a permission to pitch. Ask them to really understand them. Ask them with a real curiosity and an open mind, and actively listen to what they say, the content of their words, as well as the context, how they say it. Are they congruent? What's the environment like in which they are interacting and saying these things? Like, you need to pay attention to not just what they say, but how they say it, and really drive understanding and qualify them. Yes, they are actually a really good fit for what we do, and I understand what they need and why they need it, and I'm going to go and pitch them really effectively, throwing one dart into the target and hitting on the first attempt. So the other thing that you need to know is that trust comes before any transaction. Trust before transaction. Nobody buys anything if they don't believe in everything you say, right? So here's an example. If your phone rings after this webinar and you pick it up and it's an unknown number, and the other person on the other line goes, "Hey, John, this is Steve. I'm calling from company X, Y, and Z. I want to tell you, you've won $1 million. Isn't this exciting?" Are you going to get excited? Are you going to jump up and down from your desk high-fiving your employees thinking you've just won $1 million? No, chances are you're going to think about hanging up. You're going to say, no, not interested, and you're going to hang up. Why? Isn't what the content of the call amazing? Isn't hearing and learning that you just won $1 million incredible value? Well, the problem is that you have zero trust. The problem is that you believe nothing that was just said, and the more amazing it is, the less you trust it. So what people don't understand a lot of times is that it's not only about what you say, it's how you say it and who says it. Credibility and trust before any kind of transaction. You need to establish some level of trust before people can actually buy from you. You need to understand that trust is being developed on 3 core levels: on the company level, the product level, and the personal level. And if you can only establish trust on one level, you want to do it on the personal level, because that's the most vivid, active relationship, is you and the person you're selling, versus your product doesn't have a relationship with the person you're selling, and your company, which is this conceptual construct of multiple people and things. Like, company won't have a relationship. It always comes down to people. So first, people have to trust you. Then you need to build some trust in your product, what your product is actually going to deliver, what you promised. And you also want to create some trust around your company, right? So why is this company going to be around? Why is this company known for keeping their promises, or fixing their issues, or keeping their words? Why should I believe that this company is going to be around for a while? So interacting and getting into a relationship with them is not a waste of time that's going to be, worthless in a few months because they're going to be out of business. So you need to build trust and tell people why they should trust your company. You need to build trust around your product. Why will your product deliver? Why should people trust your product? And then, most importantly, you need to create trust around you as a person. Why should I want to be in business with you? Why should I believe anything you say? And you can do that explicitly and implicitly. And implicit is always better. Like, you can always Tell them about things that will make them think, oh, this person is trustworthy, versus saying outright the words, you should trust me, right? I'm always distrustful. The first thing I think when somebody is like, you should really trust me, is, oh my God, I will never trust this person. That's the most obvious thing to think. So you wanna be able to say things like, hey, here are the 5 amazing companies that have bought our product, and here's the value they're getting, and here's what they're saying about us. Hey, here's my background, here's my personal story, here's the companies that I've built, that I've led as a CEO, and the result these companies drove, and the legacy I've led them to become. Here's my background and story. Here's where I'm coming from. Here's where I am today. Here's where I'm going next. And you want to speak in a way that is authentic, so people feel the congruency of your words, so every word actually hits and people start believing you and trusting you. And a big benefit that you have as a CEO of a company is that the title alone comes with a lot of trust. Right? You have all these, like the title CEO alone comes with a massive bag of goodies, and one of them is trust. People immediately assume you're important. People immediately assume they can trust you a lot more than your salespeople or anybody else in your organization. So if you come into that relationship with all this, like, you're already coming into this relationship with a lot more trust than normally people would have. You want to make sure that you actually take advantage of that. Here's a big one about sales. You always, no matter what you do, product, service, I don't care what it is that you're selling, you always sell value. Nobody cares about your features. Nobody cares about how you've built what you've built, the functionality, the features, the buttons, the things. Nobody cares about the things that you're involved with all day long. All people care about is, what is in it for me? What have you done for me lately? What is this going to do for me, for my life? How is this solving my problems? How is this making my life better? How is this making me more money or saving me money? Like, why should I care? And you have to focus on talking about value versus features. You have to talk about benefits versus functionality. And we all forget this. Doesn't matter how amazing you are as a CEO, doesn't matter how professional you are as a salesperson. Sooner or later, you'll get so self-involved with your product, you're so focused on the features and functionalities and the bolts and bits and little pieces of how everything works, that you're going to start talking about these things a lot more than you should be translating these things into value. It doesn't matter that your product has X, Y, and Z functionality. The question is, what kind of value does that drive to the other person, and why should they care? Is this going to make them more money or save them time? Is this going to make them really good in front of their boss, or is this going to save them embarrassment? What is the core value that you can deliver with your product? Only talk about that. Talk about the value you create. And then later on, as a follow-up, you can talk about the vehicle that delivers that value, which in technical products might be the features and functionalities of your product and the technical background. But the features and functionalities are always the deliverers of value. And what people really care first and foremost about is, what's in it for me? What is going to be the value of what you're trying to sell me for my life, right? Always sell value. Always do value-based sales, never do features, functionality-based sales. The next basic thing you need to know, understand, and master if you're a CEO in sales is the art of managing objections. There's no such thing as no objection sales. If you can pitch somebody and they just say yes and they buy, the most scary prospects for me are the ones that buy without objections. The most scary people that I try to hire for my company are the ones that want to start immediately without having any critical questions. The most scary potential investors are the ones that immediately talk about investing without having any, challenging objections. Objections mean somebody is real. Objections mean somebody is trying to qualify if this is a good fit. Objections mean somebody operates in the real world with real constraints. I like these people. These people actually are the reason I exist. If people just bought left and right and had no objections, challenges, and critical questions to ask, there would be no need to do sales anyway. Everybody would just buy. You wouldn't have to sell anything ever. So objections are a good thing. You shouldn't hide or run from them or be annoyed or inconvenienced by them. You need to learn to manage them. Anticipate and then manage. Hard preparation, easy fight. So here's what you need to do. You should never compute an answer to an objection on the fly and in real time. What that means is, if you're selling, it doesn't matter to employees, to investors, to the press, to customers, you're going to get similar questions more often than not. 80% of the time, people will have very similar objections and questions. There's going to be we don't have any time, this is too expensive, what about security risk? Like, there's going to be a set of questions, 5, 10, 15, 20 questions that you hear again and again and again and again and again. And what surprises me is that people are surprised of hearing these things again and again and again. And you know what? The more they hear them, the more annoyed they are that they have to deal with them. How stupid is that? How about preparing for them and being excited when somebody has that objection, because you're prepared to answer it effectively and you know how to actually answer it in a way that drives your agenda forward and helps them and help you move the deal forward. So what you need to do is, once you know what your top 5, 10, 15 questions are, that your objections are that you get all the time, sit down, you write these on a piece of paper or a document, and you think about an answer that's effective, that only needs 1 or 2 sentences, no paragraph, no pages. You want to answer any objection as concise and precise as possible, 1 or 2 sentences. And you know what the secret is? It's not even that much about like how amazing is the answer. It's even more about, it's not so much how you answer, but or what you say when you answer, but how you're answering it. You know, whenever you're able to answer an objection in 1 or 2 sentences and keep eye contact or keep like your level of energy and focus and clarity, what it does is it doesn't just communicate the content of what you're saying, it also, the underlying message to the other party is, wow, this guy seems to be not rattled at all by this objection. This person seems to know exactly how to deal with it. This person seems to have a very high level of clarity on how to manage that objection. All these things, underlying message of all these things are, you're an expert, you know what you're doing, you've done it before. That makes people comfortable, and comfort is more than anything what people are looking for when they bring up objections. They don't just want to hear your answer and believe it. They want to feel like you're a pro, you've dealt with this before, and they're in good hands. So hard preparation, easy fight. You need to learn how to embrace objections, manage them, and use them as a tool to sell more effectively. All right, now the last of the sales basics for CEOs is the most surprising one. You have to ask for the close. Every conversation, every communication with somebody needs to end with an ask for a close. Wow, Stella, you know, this is amazing. I'm so glad I joined this webinar. I've never heard of this before. This is such a groundbreaking concept, right? This sounds like the most stupid, obvious thing to say. But how is it that every single day I hear sales calls, or I participate in sales conversations where the end is the weakest part of the conversation and the CEO is not going for it? Again, looping that back to the fear of rejection, because they're afraid of hearing a no instead of embracing it. Ask for the close. Hey, are we in business yet? Hey, what will it take for you and us to get into business? Hey, what would it take for you? Now that we've figured out that this is a good fit for you, now that it seems like we're really aligned and I was able to, you know, answer all your critical questions to your satisfaction, hopefully, I'm curious, you know, what stands in the way of us getting into business? What needs to happen for you to become a customer of our solution? What needs to happen for you to decide to join our team? Like, whatever it is, go for the close. And you know what? More often than not, you're going to get a no or not yet. That's awesome. Embrace it. Anticipate it. It's a good thing. You know what the most powerful thing is you can do when somebody tells you no is not be rattled by it. Keep your smile. Keep your energy and composure. Show the other person that that doesn't affect you and that you anticipated that and that it's fine for them to think, to not be quite there yet now, but you're going to help them get there, right? That's when you come into the conversation, the sales conversation, from a point of friendly strength, right? You're very friendly to them, but you're also, there's an underlying strength, like a parent interacting with a child that's really upset about something or throws a tantrum, is coming from a place of knowing, showing the other party, you know what, I've dealt with this situation before, I know you're not quite there yet, and that's okay. I'm going to help you and guide you through the process until you feel comfortable to make a buying decision. Nothing is more powerful than being okay with somebody saying no and still keeping the conversation moving forward and focusing on servicing them into giving them everything they need to buy your product. But you have to ask for the close to get the no. You have to ask for the close to get a close. You have to ask for the close to get to a result, a yes or no. You have to make a throw to make a point. You have to take a chance. Too many times at the end of a conversation, a CEO or a salesperson will not actually really go for it. They will go, well, this was a great conversation. I'm really happy about it. Well, let's stay in touch. and see how this is going to develop. And then, let us know if you have any more questions. And we would love for you guys to buy our product. All right, bye. Boom. What kind of a shitty close is this? How about, hey, how was this call? Are you happy with all the answers? Are you ready to get in business with us, right? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to rock and roll? Ask people for the close to get to a result. Yes or no doesn't matter. A no could be a not yet. Even if it's a definite no and there's a real good reason for why they'll never buy your product, you better want to know about it right now than wait for it for weeks. Oh, are they going to buy or not? I don't know. We're still looking into the account every day and hoping they're going to upgrade or purchase themselves. That's weak sauce, right? You have to go for it and ask for the close every single time. The close might be buy your product. The close might be let's schedule that X meeting. The close might be introduce me to somebody important, but you have to ask for it. You can't get what you want if you don't ask for it, right? So let me quickly check. There's a question from Javed, I hope I said the name right. Some suggest that we ask whether they are comfortable saying no with a prospect up front. Wonder what Stelis thoughts on this. Asking for people if they're comfortable saying no with a prospect up front. You have to help me out here a little bit. I'm not 100% sure. I'm really tempted to assume what you mean and interpret what you mean, but I'd rather have you clarify what exactly you mean by that question. Once you do, I'll jump into it and try to answer it as good as I can. All right, so let's go to the next one. Fortune is in the follow-up, and that's really the last step of the Pitchology 101, the Hustling 101, Sales 101 for CEOs is, you have to deal with rejection. You have to go out there and pitch people and communicate in a result-driven way. You have to qualify them and ask lots of questions to have real understanding. You have to actually sell in a value-focused way. You have to manage objections, and then you have to go for the close. And, more often than not, the transaction will not end until you have to do a little bit of follow-up. And follow-up is really where the fortune is. Follow-up is where winning actually happens, because 9 out of 10 times everybody else will not follow up when a deal falls through. So here's what happens. You have a sales conversation, you have a meeting, you have a recruiting call, you have an investor meeting or whatever it is, and it goes really well. And then they say, hey, let's schedule another call to talk some more. And they send them an email to schedule the call, and crickets, silence. You don't hear from them back. So you send another email. You don't hear from them back. You wait a little longer, you send another email. You don't hear back. You call, you leave a voicemail, you don't hear back. At that point, you start assuming I've been rejected, they hate me, they probably think I'm horrible and stupid. Oh my God, I'm gonna feel really shitty about this. I don't wanna be needy and keep getting rejected by their silence, so I'm just gonna stop and call this a loss. That's the stupidest idea and stupidest strategy you could ever apply. When you've been in a positive interaction with somebody and they fall off the track and they don't communicate with you, you know how many times you should follow up? Indefinitely, forever. You should never stop following up until you get to a result. Again, looping back, result-driven communication. Silence is not a result. A no is a result. A yes is a result. But silence isn't. So here's my simple philosophy. I always follow up indefinitely. I keep following up forever until I hear back. When somebody tells me, hey, fuck off, dude, I really don't want to hear anything about this anymore, I'll stop. I totally will stop. But until I hear back, I will never, ever stop following up. You know how many deals we closed, how many investors we got, how many things we've moved forward just by being the only ones that kept following up? A lot more times than you could ever imagine. I'll give you a quick example, a story that I tell oftentimes. An investor, somebody that's so famous, all of you have used his product, the product that he developed and made billions with, I can say with certitude. We got a warm introduction to that investor. Once we were fundraising, that guy replies and says, yes, I'm interested. I want to meet up with you guys. We get all excited, high-five each other. We send an email with some times and dates to meet. Silence. We send another email, silence. We send another email, silence. You know how many follow-ups it took to hear back from him? 48 fucking follow-ups. 48 follow-ups where he was totally silent. And you know what? When we followed up, we weren't needy about it. I wasn't referring back to the original emails. Hey, you said yes. What's up? I've followed up with you 12 times. That's not cool. Really, it would be really appreciated if you do. Like, no. Every single email, I was clear and to the point, short, precise, and concise. Hey, another beautiful day in Paris. Here's a little tidbit of good news about our company. How about a quick call on Tuesday or Thursday at this or this time? I send another follow-up. Hey, how about we actually try to meet on Wednesday or Saturday? Nothing. Hey, here's another cool news. We just hit this milestone. Would it be possible to meet this week, either this time or this time? I just kept following up. Professional, clear cut, 1 or 2 sentences, precise. After 48 follow-ups, the guy replies and says, oh my God, I'm so glad you kept following up. I'm so sorry. I suck. We had this big crisis. I had to fly around the world. I have to do this and that. Yes, can you come tomorrow to my office at 11 a.m.? We went there. We closed the deal. We got the investment. That's how you win, is when you follow up when nobody else is following up, because everybody else feels rejected and needy and doesn't want to be inconveniencing somebody. This is business. When you're in a relationship with somebody and you interacted with them and they give you positive feedback and said, yes, let's move forward, they've given you permission to follow up. And it's not just rude to follow up, it's rude to be silent. Don't assume people are rejecting you. Assume people are busy. People have other things to do than to answer you. Something came up, so keep following up until you hear from them. If you only do one thing as a CEO, is instilling a culture of follow-up in your organization. And you have to go first. Lead by example. Show your employees, your team, your investors that you always follow up and follow through to get shit done, right? All right. A last little tidbit on the sales side. Play the CEO card. Like just by having the title of CEO, deals will happen faster and better because people assume a lot of stuff with, oh, the CEO has stepped in to talk to us, right? You could give a junior salesperson the CEO title and that person will probably close more deals next week just because they come into conversation with like, oh, this is the CEO of our company. People assume importance, people assume authority, people assume intelligence, all kinds of amazing shit with the title CEO. So just by having that title, just by giving yourself the title of CEO of your 2-person company, right? I'm the chairman and CEO. Just by that, people will take you more seriously, people will listen to you more carefully, and people will resonate and respond to your message a lot more powerfully. So you have to help your team. If you have a sales team already or a team that sells that go out there, you have to get down and dirty. You have to step in and help your team close deals, especially the important ones. Help step into your HR and recruiting team to hire people. Step into the investor and fundraising cycle. You have to be in the front lines, using your title and using the authority and the magic and the unicorn sprinkling all the cool goodies that come with that title to get shit done and make transactions happen. So support your team and utilize that title to make stuff happen. And then one quick other tip is that one of the more core important things about the CEO title is that people assume that you're busy, that you're important. Being busy and important assumes that you don't have time to waste. So when you go into sales conversations, one easy hack to make the other person really feel implicitly that you're important is to have time constraints. If you go into sales calls as a CEO and you take 2 hours for like a $100 a month deal, you know what the other person will think? Even if they appreciate that you take all the time in the world for them, they will assume you're not important. They will assume you have nothing better to do than to take 2 hours to close a $19.99 monthly subscription deal with them, right? So here's a simple hack. As a CEO, everything you do should have a short and precise timeline. You do 15-minute sales calls. You don't do 1-hour sales calls. You come into the conversations with having real time constraints. Hey, my name is Stelis. I'm the CEO of Closeio. I'm super excited to talk to you today. I want to highlight and be respectful of your time that I'm going to have another call in about 15 minutes. My day-to-day is a little crazy. I apologize for that. But I think if we both focus, we're going to be able to accomplish our objectives and get really a lot of things done. Why don't you start and tell me the 3 things that you want to focus on, and then we'll go ahead and we'll try to make it happen, right? Just by saying, hey, I have a real time constraint. I have another call in 15 minutes or 30 minutes. But I think that amount of time, if we focus, will help us get everything done. Just by that and having that kind of energy of like, I need to get shit done. I don't have time to babble on forever, talk about the weather and everything. I'm here, I'm focused, I'm going to give you all my attention, then I have to move on to something else. Just by doing that, you're going to have real impact and you're going to implicitly communicate to the other party that you're important and busy. And people love to buy from people that are busy and are important, right? It makes them feel comfortable. It makes them feel like, this is somebody that's important and authority for a reason. Probably they're very intelligent and successful. So doing business with them is probably going to be a good idea, right? Use that. Right, let me take another stab at the question. Thanks for clarifying it. So he says, I meant what your thoughts are on asking. Let me actually move this around a little bit. I can't even see the entire question. You know what? Let me, at the end of the session, I'm going to go into the Q&A session. I'm going to maximize the commenting chat area so I actually can read it carefully. Right now, half of it is cut off for me, and I'll address it then. Sorry about that. So let's move on. So the first part of the presentation was how to think about sales as a CEO. What are the sales basics? The second part of this webinar is all about understanding who you're selling to and what you are actually selling them on, right? CEOs are always selling. Let's look at the core audiences that you're selling to, right? First of all, when you just get started as a founding CEO, you have to sell to your co-founders. And not just them, you might have to sell to them your entire life cycle of your business, on your ideas, on your personality, on your challenges, on whatever it is. But you have to sell to your co-founders. You have to sell to employees, right? You constantly have to sell to people to join your business, join your company. Say no to another opportunity to come join yours. Say no to starting something themselves and come join your team. You will constantly have to sell employees on why they should be doing what they should be doing, why certain priorities go over others. You constantly are selling to people. You need to sell to customers, the early customers most crucially, but even in the life cycle, you'll constantly have to sell to customers, close big deals, small deals, get down and dirty as a CEO. You have an obligation to help your business close deals and generate more revenue and make more customers. So you're constantly going to be involved in selling to customers. You're going to have to sell to investors. As a CEO, one of your core responsibilities is going to be to make sure there's money in the bank, that you actually can pay everybody, right, and sustain the business. Doing that oftentimes will involve raising money from outside investors. And the interaction with investors is not that dissimilar with your interaction with customers. You have to sell them. This is nothing else than sales. To sell them on your idea, sell them on your product, on your team, on your vision, on your future. And as a transaction, they give you money. And you're going to have to sell to the press, right, and media and to the outside world. You go constantly, it doesn't matter if you're tweeting, if you're posting something on Facebook, or if you're sending a press release to a big publication. You're selling the press. You're selling people on giving you their attention. So you need to understand what it is that they are interested in buying, right? So let's look at a couple of core things and the core things these different groups are looking to buy from you. When you're trying to sell somebody to become your co-founder, what you're ultimately selling them on is a relationship. And I've thought about this deep and hard. And first I thought you're selling them on a vision. And then I thought you're selling them on, like there were all kinds of things that seemed relevant. And yes, nothing is as simple as I will make it out to be, but at the core, the essence, you need to understand and to have clarity on what it is that the core thing is that you're selling somebody on. And when you're trying to convince somebody to become your co-founder, you're selling them on a relationship. You don't sell them on a vision. Oh, but the reason why this person wants to join me as a co-founder is because they love the vision of the company and the technology I built or the traction I have. If a co-founder buys the vision, excuse me, the vision, the product, the traction, or anything else, or that you have that amazing investors or any other of that stuff, you haven't sold them on what's really crucially important. And the relationship and the success of that transaction will be highly questionable, and there's going to be a very, very high risk of churn of that co-founder relationship and then co-founder interaction and deal not standing the test of time. I see this time and time again where people become co-founders because they like the idea or because they like the traction or because some other bullshit reason, but they never understood that what they actually are committing to, what they're actually buying and selling is a relationship. Is this other person somebody that I can actually birth a business with? Is this somebody that I can actually parent a business to go from like a tiny infant to something that can bloom and grow beyond our idea and beyond our initial involvement? Can I actually work with this person through highs and lows? Can I trust this person in really hard, really horrible times? Do I complement my skill set with this person? Is this somebody I want to get into as intimate and as challenging a relationship with as any business relationship you could ever have? No business relationship could ever be more challenging, more intimate, and more demanding of you than a relationship with a co-founder. So when you're selling people, you need to understand that what you're selling them first and foremost, and what you should be selling them on, and what you should be qualifying them on, are they qualified to buy being my co-founder, is the relationship. Is this somebody that I want to work with? Is this somebody that has abilities and skills that complement mine? Is this somebody that is culturally and value-wise aligned with myself? Do we share common goals? Do we share common traits? Do we share humor? Is this somebody that I want to be with, on a stranded island for 10 years, like fighting for survival. Like that's what you should be qualifying them on, and they should be qualifying you on. And that's what you should eventually and essentially be selling to them. You're selling them on a relationship. And once you've closed that deal and they became your co-founder, you need to keep selling them on that, and they need to keep selling you on that. And you guys need to keep buying that the relationship is something you both want to opt in and renew day after day after day. Co-founders that don't understand that are co-founders that drift apart when conflict happens, drift apart when as the team and company grows, and eventually come into conflict, get estranged, and then ultimately end up in a divorce, usually not a pretty one. The number one reason why businesses, many, especially new businesses, startups fail are fights between co-founders. So you need to understand that what you're selling somebody on and what they should be buying when you're trying to get a co-founder is a relationship. What are employees buying? Employees and people that you're convinced to join your company and work for your company, ultimately what employees are buying is growth. And again, this was something I had to struggle with, and I went back and forth on what it truly is at its core essence. And I know there's many other things, but at the core, at the heart of it, what people are looking for when they're joining your company versus starting their own versus joining somebody else's company is growth. Personal growth, professional growth, growth on all levels, emotional growth. What people ultimately ask themselves is, they look at you first and foremost and they go, does my boss or the person I'm going to be working for, does he or she know something I don't know something I want to know and learn, and are they willing and capable to teach it to me? You cannot effectively lead and manage people and have them work for you if they cannot answer these questions with a yes. If they look at you and they think you don't know anything they want to know, you are not capable of teaching it to them, and you're not interested in teaching it to them, they won't want to work for you, right? Not at least in a startup environment, not at least in a high growth environment. This is very different, obviously, when we're talking when we go into different industries and verticals around the world. But for high growth venture-backed companies that are looking for high skilled workers, these people look at their bosses and ultimately at you as a CEO, and they go, does this dude know something I want to know? Is he capable of something I want to be capable of? Does he care enough to want to teach me? And is he capable of teaching me? If the answers to these questions are no, they will not want to join you. And then obviously, they will want to look for a mission and a vision and a culture and a value system that makes them happy and allows them to grow, right? So many other things are important, but ultimately what you're selling employees on is growth. Again, if you sell them and qualify them on, we raised $100 million from this important guy, and that's all you should care about, and that's all they care about, it's going to be a bad relationship. Right? What you want them to care about is like, why is this, whatever it is, like, again, value-based, right? The value is growth. Here's why you should join us. Here's where we're coming from, where we are today, and where we're going. Here's where I am coming from, where I am today, and where I'm going. Here's the things we know, and here's the things that we're learning, and here's how we're going to share that with you. Here's the opportunities that you're going to have to grow. If you can convince people on that, they will want to join your company. It doesn't matter what stage it is, doesn't matter what kind of money it raised or didn't raise, doesn't matter how much press or not press it gets. If you can convince people of the opportunity to grow faster and more fulfillingly, more happily than at some other place, they will naturally and subjectively and subconsciously want to come and join you, right? They won't even know why, but they will want to come and work for you. Now, we talked about this earlier, but I want to just to cover all bases, I wanted just to touch on this really quickly again, is selling to customers. And again, I said it before, I'll say it again. Ultimately, what customers want to buy is value. Value can be, the value they're looking for can be different things. Value for them might be, in B2B, when you're selling to businesses, it's easier sometimes because what you're selling them in value a lot of times translates to more revenue or less cost or more time. And on a personal level might be, a safe bet, looking good in front of coworkers or employees or investors, et cetera, making good judgment calls. But they're always buying value. On the end consumer side, it might be that value is to be cool. It might be that the value they're looking for is not to be bored or be entertained or laugh or feel attractive or feel exciting, whatever it is. But people always want to buy value. They only care about you communicating and selling value to them. If the value you create through your service, product, or whatever it is that you do the value you create is higher than the cost to them, they will want to buy, right? As simple as that. Investors. What are investors ultimately buying from you as a CEO when you're trying to sell them? So ultimately, investors are in the business of buying the future. And I thought about this and I was like, why are they buying the future? Well, because they're buying future potential, right? They're looking to get a piece of your business today, not because of what the value is today, but what the promise of value is tomorrow. And another way to say it, maybe less flattering to investors, like investors buying future kind of sounds cool, but what it truly is they're buying fantasy, right? They're buying fantasy. What you're pitching them on is some fantastic castle in the sky, is the future that's not yet realized, and you're pitching them on why your team, your vision, your market, your mission, your execution will create that future and realize that fantasy into reality and how they're going to capitalize on it. And ultimately, if you don't understand that that's the business you're in, or that's the pitch you're making, you're not going to be able to be effective in selling investors. There's many, many other things that you need to consider when selling to investors, and I'll do another webinar just about that. But at the core of it, you're selling investors the promise of the future, not just the realities of today. And yes, you need to use the pathway of yesterday and the marks and what you've accomplished today to make them believe and make your pitch credible that you're going to accomplish your fantasy and arrive at your future. But at the end of it, they're buying the future today. They're buying an option on the future today. So they need to start believing your version of the future, and they need to buy into your fantasy. The press. Last but not least, right? As a CEO, you're always going to have to talk to the outside world at large. Press is a representation of that, to make them write about you, make them tell your story. If there are news, good or bad, influence the way the narrative is going to travel around the world. And what people a lot of times forget, people and CEOs oftentimes think when you pitch the press, you're pitching them news. The press is interested in news, so what can we tell them new? Well, our company just released a new button on the administration page. That's news. That didn't exist yesterday. Let me pitch the press on our news. The press doesn't give a rat's ass about your news. The press only cares about stories. And news can be a very powerful way to tell a story, or can represent very powerful stories because they have relevance and they have freshness to them. But at the end of it, what they're really buying is this a story worth telling? Is this a story worth caring about? Will my audience, will the world care, pay attention, enjoy, consume, and spend time learning and listening to this story? So when you pitch to the press, you are selling a story. It doesn't matter if it's a new feature in your product, doesn't matter if it's something about your competitor, doesn't matter if it's about a crisis, doesn't matter if it's about your basic philosophy, a new hire, your latest round. You always need to think about, what is the story that we're telling? What's the narrative? What is the challenge and the way we overcame that? There's storytelling 101 material out there. So you need to become a really good storyteller. You need to understand how to tell something in a story that has an act 1, 2, and 3, and that has kind of a hero and a thread. Like, just use these basic storytelling techniques to tell what you want to tell the press in a story format, so they can actually A, understand it, and B, share that story with the world. Never just give the press facts and then assume the press will take those facts and make a great story out of it. Nobody has that kind of time. Nobody has that kind of effort. They don't want to do your job. When you're the CEO, by the way, again, with press, having the CEO title helps tremendously. The press is talking to press PR professionals all day long. So when they actually get direct access to the CEO and founder, they're listening, they're caring. It's something that tells them, oh, I'm going to get the unbiased, unfiltered, real story. I'm going to talk to the source versus kind of a gatekeeper. They're really interested in that. So using and utilizing the CEO title can be really effective when dealing with the press. And when you talk to them, you need to have prepared your news and the facts that you want to share with them in a story, right? Ready to be copy and pasted and shared with the world. You need to tell them something that's compelling, funny, new, interesting, challenging. You need to tell them a story, and that's what you're selling them on at the end of the day. All right, so those were the basics: how to sell and who to sell to and what you're selling them if you are a CEO. And when you're a CEO, you're always selling. If you want to learn more about sales for your startup, for your team, for yourself, you can always just sign up for a free email course on startup sales success. Just go to close.io, close.io/free-sales-course. And now I'm going to jump into the Q&A session. You guys are always invited to send me an email at any time, Steli, S-T-E-L-I, at close.io. Ask me questions, talk about challenges. I'm going to try to help as many of you as possible becoming better at sales and therefore becoming better CEOs. Right? So let's go out of the presentation mode and actually look at some of those questions. I'm going to stop the recording